everybody, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Maite Jiménez, and I will start by introducing myself. I am the VP for the supply chain for EMEA at Ricoh. I am an industrial engineer and postmaster in supply chain. I have more than 25 years of experience in different areas of the business, but my real passion and my heart are in the supply chain. And I have worked in multinational companies like GE Plastics, that later became Sabic, and working now at Ricoh, and I have lived in 4 countries. And today I will be talking about how supply chain leaders can sustain a new standard of digital leadership in a challenging and unpredictable world. The content of my presentation starts with an introduction on resilience, talk about building resilience. I will talk about leadership under the new normal, and I will have a summary, but I will also show you during the presentation how we apply some of the things that I will be presenting at Ricoh. So what is supply chain resilience? Looking into internet, many of the definitions are related to how fast you can recover from disruption, but the one which I like the most is the one that you see here, which is the ability to navigate disruptions and consistently deliver goods and services against your cost, quality, and ESG standards. So before we talk about resilience, let's talk about disruptions. And disruptions there are 3 types of disruptions. So some disruptions can be external, like, for example, a pandemic, like COVID. It can also be related to war, energy crisis, can also be some specific shortage of specific roads which are necessary to produce some components, or it can even be war problems to get workforce with the right skills because of market shortage of specific skills. There are also risks which are linked into the external value chain, and those are the risks which are associated with, for example, one supplier who cannot deliver because of quality issues, or in an even worse scenario, the production facilities of one of your suppliers get completely destroyed, and because of that, the supplier cannot deliver anymore. Other risks are the ones which are within your organization, which are the operational and functional risks, which can also have impact on customers. What's important is that you need to really build into having a proactive approach to risk management, but on top of that, you also need to have basic pillars to build resilience in your supply chain, and we will come back to that later. But it all starts with having a vision and a purpose, and also aligning the organization and also your supply chain strategy into the vision of the company. And to do that, you constantly need to be thinking in the customer, be customer-centric, and having an outside-in approach. So how can we help our customers to succeed? What are the new opportunities that we can embrace? And how do we build resilient processes around that? Based on that, you can define your purpose, the direction, and where you want to go. But able to be doing the way to get there is just not a road without obstacles. I think that it's a road where you have to start going together, and at the end of the day, you follow your purpose, but you need to be flexible to deviate sometimes from the way that you were following just to get there. So again, building a vigilant and a flexible organization is key in order to live in a world with uncertainties and disruptions. So being a vigilant organization, I want to use the example of Ricoh's evolution. So Ricoh has been for many years a manufacturing company of great products, but already years ago, we started to see a decline on printing. And actually that accelerated after COVID. So we could still add new capabilities, develop new products, develop digital capabilities, digital machines, but we needed to reposition Ricoh as a digital services company and actually build on our customer base with new offerings. And here you see that right now we are offering printers, but we are also offering services in the cloud, audiovisuals, booking systems for operating companies. So we have been building that based on new acquisitions and internal developments, And also we have a much broader offerings to do on the digital service area. So some of the business that you see over here also have impact on the supply chain, like workplace spaces, so communication services of software solutions, lockers, Zebra printers, and of course industrial printers, which also can be used in customers, for example, to print on T-shirts. Some of these products is not that just that we offer them for customers, we also use them ourselves. So you see over there a Ricoh locker. It's in our warehouse, which is an outsourced operation. And actually, we are using that to hold the handhelds for the people. But we also sell that to customers, and the Zebra printers, we are using that to print labels on demand. So we have stopped ordering labels, keeping inventory of those, because we are using our own technology in our operation. But again, new business propositions also require new supply chain capabilities, and constantly you need to be assessing, and you have to be building resilience into how you are going to support all these new offerings and still be prepared to handle disruptions. So that's why our key priority in the supply chain is focusing on resilience, which is actually building a resilient supply chain, trying to surpass our competitors and contributing to the strengthening of the competitiveness in the market. So we want to strengthen our responsiveness against emergency, and we do that by visualizing or utilizing supply chain information. And here is where a lot of the digital tools come in the picture to help us to have that information much faster and to be able to translate the data into information. We want to establish an agile and collaborative network and operations to support the growth on the digital propositions. And we also want to establish a decarbonized and circulated supply chain network. But what's very important on all this is, of course, our people, the well-being of our people, but also training our people, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that keep together the chain, and we can support them with different tools, but they are a critical part of our business as well. One way to show our strategic direction is the wheel that you see over here. And again, here you see that we put operational excellence and resilience in the center. So those are critical in the supply chain, and they link into the vision. But of course, we have, let's say, the things that enable being resilient and having operational excellence, like keep continuously innovation and tools, so embracing new technologies, developing new capabilities, looking into, well, implementing governance more and more into processes, measuring more performance and making things measurable, preparing for the future, so future-proof, so also right-sizing our business, having the right cost basis, but also training our resources to adjust to the new normal. We are also working constantly on sustainability and on driving the Ricoh Global Sustainability Development Goals. And of course, we continuously look into improvements in our global supply chain, so optimizing the network processes and systems. This is a picture that we use to communicate both to management level, but also to our employees. So what are the building blocks for supply chain resilience? First one is end-to-end visibility, which is the ability to track events, patterns, or changes on those patterns, and enabling proactivity in the decision-making process. It's also about monitoring suppliers, customers, and products to find out as soon as possible when there is a deviation, so that you can act on that on time and prevent further impact in the chain. The next one is collaboration, which is the ability to build trust-based relationships with partners and other key strategic networks and working towards common goals. Important here is as well sharing of supply chain information, both internally and externally. And the last one, flexibility, which is the ability to adapt quickly to disruptions without significantly increasing your operational cost. And some examples here, rerouting, for example, from one harbor to another one, but also having flexible contracts with your 3PLs, so that you can adjust much more into different peaks on demand. and also having production flexibility, like being able to produce in different places. And all of that needs to be supported by governance structures. You can also add to that building resilience through risk assessment. And for assessing the external factors, I use the PESTEL model, and the PESTEL model is looking into the political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and legal aspects. And again, having people in your organization who or have the information or engage with the right bodies to get that information on time and proactively. And you have to do that not just once, but you need to be updating that information regularly. So one example of that can be in the legal side, can be one raw material that cannot be used anymore in a specific products in one of the specific markets, like the European Union. So if you know on time, you can anticipate to that and avoid disruption and obsolescence. But again, you need to be constantly vigilant and looking into this type of changes. You also need to be assessing your vulnerabilities in your supply chain and reducing the probability and the impact of potential disruptions, and always building actions for short and long term. But the most important around this is don't do this as a just once exercise. It needs to be a continuous exercise, and it needs to be built into your organization. So I assign owners to look into these things, and we do continuous monitoring, engaging, learning, and acting. That brings me into some of the characteristics of the leaders in the new normal that I consider to be important. Again, this is not supposed to be a complete list. I could add some things to that, but those are the ones that come to my mind as something that I have seen myself and that I have need to develop to adjust to the new normal. And that's being able to lead under uncertainty and a higher speed of change. So again, being flexible and being adaptable leader. Being able to communicate the complexity in a simple way, use, for example, storytelling, as I mentioned before. Have always a proactive approach to risk assessment. Foster collaboration and creative approaches. Maintain always a positive attitude and show vulnerability. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Capitalize on opportunities. And a very important one, in an uncertain world, you will decide something and you will think later on that that's a mistake. But again, you can learn from that. So learning from failures is also something that the leaders in the new normal should have. Next to that, also focus on what can be controlled and be purpose-oriented. So don't spend time in what you cannot control, but focus much more on the things that you can control and navigating through the things that you cannot control. And finally, prioritize the well-being of your employees. So that brings me into showing some examples of resilience at Ricoh. I mentioned before the repositioning of the company to support growth, and the fact that we today have cross-functional teams which are assessing the benefits, but also the risk of new propositions, and also try to take into consideration how we can build the supply chain to be able to deliver those goods in a consistent way, and how to act in case of disruptions. Next to that, we also engage with customers and employees. So we also have forums with customers, and we also have forums with employees who also provide the feedback that can be sometimes very valuable. We have been reviewing the design and the assortment for flexibility. So, for example, building more modular can also be a way to create resilience. And again, revising your assortment and really having an assortment which is fit for purpose can also improve your resilience. We constantly look to our internal processes. So we have been looking into our procurement processes. We have alternative supplies and buffers for critical parts. We have been retrofitting parts closer to the customer. And we have been outsourcing to 3PLs to make fixed cost variable cost. And again, we also constantly work with cross-functional optimization. And we have cross-functional teams looking into improvements. We also are investing in end-to-end visibility and automation like RPA, PPA dashboard, but also tools for simulations, and also looking right now into using artificial intelligence. And last is the constant engaging and training of your employees to adjust, to also use them and develop them in the new skills which are required. And also we take that into consideration into the hiring process. So in summary, building resiliency requires to have a resilient leadership, clear communication to the complete workforce, and also taking tangible action on short and long-term risk. Investing in a resilient supply chain really pays off. So we have seen that in the last years that if you balance cost versus building some resilience, there are big benefits to companies. Next to that, disruptions are not always issues. You can also use a disruption to build an opportunity out of that. And last, you need to keep embracing and investing in digital transformation in supply chains to enhance your resilience, because you cannot base that anymore into data from the past. You need to be able to get data from customers, getting data from suppliers, and putting that all together to take fast decisions. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and I wish you a very nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye.